Eric Prince, the founder of the mercenary army Blackwater, went on Fox News, and the whole point of this segment is to pitch the privatization of the war in Afghanistan directly to Trump, because we all know Trump watches Fox News and definitely watches Fox and Friends and the morning shows. So here he is making a pitch directly to Trump. This segment is disturbing for so many reasons.
This October will mark 17 years since the beginning of the U.S. military operations in Afghanistan after the 9/11 attacks, a conflict that many experts say is still far from winnable. But our next guest is urging the president to rethink his strategy and replace U.S. military personnel with a smaller group of civilian contractors and special forces operators in the civilian world. So, could this shakeup finally turn a page in America's longest war? Here to discuss is former Navy SEAL and founder of Blackwater USA, Eric Prince. Eric, you're welcome. Good to see you.
Thanks, Brian.
We talked about this about a year and a half ago. The president sent in more troops, and what's the result been?
Today marks the day that the president really took ownership of the war, because today is the day that he announced more money and more troops that the Pentagon asked for. And since then, we've had more loss, more Americans dead, tens of thousands more Afghans dead, and another $62 billion in spending, and it's not working.
Well, he has put in more troops in there. They have changed the rules of engagement. Are you saying it's not as effective?
Not as effective. Even last week, there was 4 simultaneous attacks across the country. They wiped out 350 Afghan security forces, severed the north-south highway. It is a continuous litany of death and failure. What we're encouraging the president to do is to go back to what worked after 9/11. Before the big conventional forces rolled in, when you had a few special forces, a few CIA officers, backed by air power, and they decimated the Taliban in a matter of weeks.
But they did not hold territory.
They held a lot of territory, and there was no sanctuary for the Taliban. All we're saying is, and it's not a privatization, it's really a rationalization. Right now you have 15,000 U.S. troops and 30,000 contractors. By going back to a small footprint that worked, you put mentors, basically special forces veterans that go back as contractors and attach to each Afghan unit.
All right, I want you to hear what Senator Lindsey Graham told me last night. The consequences of withdrawing American forces to be replaced by mercenaries would be equal to President Obama's ill-advised pulling of American troops from Iraq. No matter how you spin it, such a decision would be seen by the terrorists as America cutting and running, and seen by our allies as America abandoning the fight. Your reaction, Eric Prince?
The military-industrial complex is real. The very unhealthy loop of massive spending on the Pentagon into wasteful wars recycled back into political campaigns is a problem on both right and left. The president rightly campaigned on ending endless wars. This is America's longest war. It's the first time we've had the kids of soldiers now fighting, kids that were toddlers when the towers fell here in New York, now fighting and dying.
How long would it take you to win?
Winning looks like a long-term presence on a descending layer, on a descending scale. So it's a year and a half to 2 years of continued structural support. If you look, Afghanistan has significant natural resources. The Taliban is making money from it. None of the legitimate miners are. You set security in those areas, you can actually turn on those parts of the economy. Sadly, the Soviet Union did a much better job of developing the economy, the oil and gas and the resources there. Afghanistan is sitting on huge amounts of rare earth elements, which is what's needed for the American manufacturing industry, especially in high-tech sectors.
So they'd have some type of economic
there is, but you have to set security long enough to do that.
A year ago you pitched it. They didn't take it. We'll see if the president takes your offer now.
Are you fucking kidding me? The dude has the nerve to say the military-industrial complex is real. Look at Lindsey Graham. He wants perpetual war, but he wants it done with our actual military. Whereas me, on the other hand, I want to privatize this war and have my Christian fundamentalist mercenary army permanently occupy this country. But did you catch what he said at the end there? The military-industrial complex is real, but did you know that Afghanistan has trillions of dollars in mineral wealth? And that we can get our hands on that, and that's what American manufacturing needs? Okay, they just admitted on TV in the morning on Fox News that, the whole point of being in the war in Afghanistan to get back the terrorists after 9/11? No, it's so that we can jack their natural resources. That's literally what they just admitted to. What the fuck are you talking about? Take the mineral wealth from Afghanistan. What are you talking about? Take the mineral wealth from Afghanistan? You do realize that is brazenly against international law, right? jacked the resources from a sovereign country after we invaded them 17 fucking years ago, and we're still there. And remember, the reason that they get... well, see, first we had to get Osama bin Laden, and we had to get them back for 9/11. So we're there. And then, okay, well, we got to wipe out Al-Qaeda. By the way, mission accomplished on both those fronts. Osama bin Laden dead. Al-Qaeda decimated. Less than 100 Al-Qaeda operatives in Afghanistan this day. Then they moved the goalposts again. Did we say we have to get Al-Qaeda and they're also gone there? What I meant to say was we need to stay there because of the Taliban. The Taliban is a guerrilla army, and they're stationed in Afghanistan. So what are you going to do? You're going to outlast people who live in fucking Afghanistan? That's what you're going to do? You're just going to... that means what you're saying, if that's the argument and you move the goalposts all the way to the Taliban, it's not about self-defense here at home, and we're just going to permanently stay there. Because here's the old trick. They go, well, we have to fight the terrorists when there are terrorists there. But then if there are terrorists not there, we have to stay there for stabilization. So notice that bait and switch. Notice that trick. Oh, we got to stay there to fight the terrorists. Oh, okay, but now the terrorists aren't there. Well, stabilization. We got to stay there to make sure they don't come back. So, guys, they're lying to you. They're lying to you. The only thing he said that was true there is the military-industrial complex, and he's part of it. In fact, he's arguably an even worse angle of it, because he's saying, I will wage this war for profit, which historically is something everybody understood. You can't have mercenary armies. You cannot have, and remember, Eric Prince, deep Christian fundamentalist. Deep Christian fundamentalist. So you want to have a Christian fundamentalist private mercenary army in a country that we've been there for 17 fucking years, in a Muslim majority country, and you want them to also jack the natural resources, and you don't think these are war crimes? You don't think this is something that the international community could look at and go, holy shit, you guys are the bad guys. Look at this. You want to talk about a rogue state. You want to talk about an actor on the international stage that's just out and out disrespecting rule of law and common sense and logic and morality and ethics. I mean, what a fucking joke. We have so thoroughly reached the point of, oh, when we do it, it's okay, that now we have people advocating for a mercenary army waging a war against a country that didn't attack us 17 years later and stealing their natural resources on TV, and nobody blinks. Nobody blinks. Nobody looks at this and they're like, that seems like it's a big problem. Nobody does. We're probably one of the only people covering this right now. And by the way, the whole point of this is I'm going to go on Fox News, pitch it to Donald Trump. Hopefully Trump sees it and then he changes his mind and then we do this. No, the move is get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. They want to permanently occupy Afghanistan to steal the mineral wealth. They just told you. They just told you. So that's imperialism. They call it what it is. That's what it is. That's what we invade countries that didn't attack us. We permanently occupy them. We take their wealth. And we have the nerve at the same time to say we're the good guy. And we really are doing this because we care about human rights. What the fuck? And by the way, Iraq, oil. Oil production shot through the roof after we invaded and occupied. So this is what it's really about, man. We need a strong anti-war movement. I mean, and by the way, when you look at the polls, and this was as of 2013, which was the most recent poll I saw, which is crazy in and of itself, only 17% of Americans wanted to be in Afghanistan still. But not only are we still there, now we're talking about even privatizing it, turning it over to a Christian fundamentalist army for profit, and stealing their natural resources. It doesn't get any worse than this, man. I mean, Eric Prince, he's also a war criminal. I haven't even mentioned that to that point in this video, up to this point in this video. He's a war criminal. He's a fucking war criminal. He is a guy who, his organization, Blackwater, they did, I think it was called the Nisour Square Massacre. Read Jeremy Scahill's book on Blackwater. The Nisour Square Massacre. They pulled into a busy Iraqi square, and they just lit up all the civilians, and then they got away with it. By the way, that's another problem with private mercenary armies. What law are they abiding by? They're not abiding by the U.S. Military Code of Conduct. So what are they abiding by? What are they abiding by? I mean, we obviously don't care about international law. We've always blown that off. So international law is out. U.S. Military Code of Conduct is out. They're just rogue terrorist actors. That's what this is. He's a war criminal. They changed the name of Blackwater a few times because they were so guilty and getting so much negative press, even in our shitty corporate media environment. We live in a dystopian sci-fi novel. That's what this is. But since this jackass wears a suit and tie, everybody just looks, oh, he must be serious. Oh, look at this nice, upstanding white man with his suit and tie. He must have something of value to add to this conversation. Let's watch. He's a fucking monstrous war criminal, a fundamentalist Christian, and a private mercenary army leader trying to permanently occupy a country and steal their natural resources for profit. He's the scum of the earth, and he should be rotting in a prison cell.